Hello and welcome. My name is Juniper. I'm the managing producer for Feldenkrais Access, and I am really thrilled to be here with you all for the first class of this new series with Beth Rubenstein, Life in Progress. We are also joined today by Maggie Burrows, who is a Feldenkrais practitioner in London, England, and Kathy White, who is a Feldenkrais practitioner in Knoxville, Tennessee. And the two of them are here to assist if you have any questions or confusions during the course of the lesson. If you're in Zoom, you can reach them through the chat. And if you're joining us on social media, or if you're watching the recording at a later date, you can write into the comments section wherever you're joining from. And if you're here in Zoom, Maggie and Kathy will respond right away. If you're on social media, it may take a little bit longer, but not so much. And if you're joining from the recording, it might take a few hours, but we monitor all the comments regularly. So please don't hesitate to write in at any time. And we're also joined today by Nadia Genois, who is a Feldenkrais practitioner in Montreal. The lesson today will be done in a seated position on a chair primarily, but Nadia will be doing the lesson lying down. So if you need to do the lesson lying down, you can see how she's engaging with the instructions. And if you need to see her more often, you can send me a message and I'll show her more often. I'll be spotlighting her periodically throughout the course of the lesson. And I'll also be spotlighting our team of practitioners who are doing the lesson as instructed, so in a chair today, and be showing those different visual guides. One note about if you're in Zoom, please have your camera situated in such a way that Beth and Maggie and Kathy can see you. It's super helpful for them, especially if you have a question, and really helpful for Beth as she leads you through the lesson. But if you don't wish to be seen, if you just press the stop video option in your Zoom menu, then that's fine too. And it helps Beth see the people who do have their camera turned on. And that's it for me. I'm going to hand you over to David, who will introduce Beth.
Thank you, Juniper, and hello to everyone. It's a great honor for myself and for Feldenkrais Access to sponsor Beth and Beth Rubenstein and her course, A Life in Progress. Beth is a physical therapist and has been a Feldenkrais method teacher for nearly 35 years. She's taught the Feldenkrais method in both universities and colleges. And most importantly, for this special series, she has applied the Feldenkrais method. And I would like to add the Feldenkrais method of accessing neuroplasticity for nearly 35 to the challenge of MS for nearly 35 years. So Beth is eminently qualified to teach this series and to help people with neurological challenges. So thank you, Beth, for agreeing to be with us. And I know that everybody is going to have great benefits from your series. And as I said, I'm personally very glad to have you.
Thank you, David and Juniper. And thank you all for being here. I am Beth Rubenstein, and as David said, I've been a Feldenkrais practitioner for 35 years and a physical therapist for 15 years before that. The class series that we're starting today is called Life in Progress. We'll explore how I use the Feldenkrais method when working with people with progressive neurological diseases with a focus on multiple sclerosis. You'll find that the lessons we do will be beneficial for most any central nervous system deficit. I think that the Feldenkrais method is a perfect approach when learning to cope with or even improve the deficits you experience with MS or progressive diseases. It doesn't mean that other approaches aren't beneficial, but you can gain insight and tools from the Feldenkrais method. Feldenkrais method is different from other movement approaches. We don't consider the movements that we do to be exercises. There certainly is a place for exercise. However, awareness through movement lessons are about learning, exploring, and discovering how you move, how you might move in a way that suits you more, that is more efficient, having a choice to perform any particular function or activity. There's no right or wrong. There are no grades. It is about your own experience and how you interact with your environment. The awareness that you're going to develop is going to help make any exercise you do or any function more efficient. Another difference with the Feldenkrais method is that we focus on what works, not what doesn't work. We'll be investigating what works and how these movements can help you to develop a strategy to perform other activities easier. We're using the brain, the bodies, and your innate intelligence. Another difference in these lessons is that we don't use effort. Effort tells your brain what you can't do. It's more of the same. I can't do that. Today, I could do that yesterday, but I can't do it today. Because that's what your body has learned. It can't do it. So the objective here is to bring about changes to the brain so that that method changes through movement. And this is called neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to change. It's not reinforcing what you can't do. And the object is the same for any central nervous system dysfunction. Effort increases stress levels throughout the body. You work harder. Usually when people are using effort, they're holding their breath. And you might even sweat. And that tells you that you're giving your all. Push, push. Sweating increases the core body temperature, which can be a major issue for people with multiple sclerosis. Stress and increased temperature will lend itself to the overwhelming fatigue that occurs with multiple sclerosis. Using the Feldenkrais method, we're channeling our curiosity. We investigate. You are your own detective. You're a movement detective. The lessons are different from any movement you've ever done, and they're fun. They're pretty easy. The individual movements tend to be small and easy, although occasionally they can be very large and all-encompassing. You might find that when you do these, if you've never done it before, that you're a little puzzled. Learning something new can be puzzling, and it can be confusing. There's a period when doing the Feldenkrais method of not knowing, and that can be confusing. Some people don't like that. Take it easy, take it slow. Learning takes time, although it should be pleasing. The movements that you're going to do are different, and it's set up that way to be different from anything you've done before. I'll never ask you to push through anything. Take your time, respect your comfort level. This is so important. When you move with attention and awareness, you are focusing on what's happening. What's happening right here, right now? How do I do this now? And I want to just touch on another symptom of MS that is, and all progressive diseases really, that there's change. Sometimes over time, and sometimes I know with MS, those changes can happen in a day. What you could do yesterday, you can't do today. Since the Feldenkrais method teaches options, you have other ways to assess your current capabilities, what you can do right now, today. And I want to give you an example of this. I have many but I think this one is pretty striking. I used to teach a class for the MS Society. It was an awareness through movement class, and I had a lot of people in it, and it was weekly. And there was a woman in it whose name was Barbara. She was a teacher. She was still working. She used a cane. So she was pretty mobile and pretty able, pretty capable. One day she got up, went to get dressed for bed, to get on with her day, and she fell out of bed and she couldn't get up. Now, normally she would have panicked, and it was before cell phones, so she couldn't do anything. So she thought about our class, and she just lied on the floor like we did in the class, and she remembered that she had options for moving. She could do it a different way, and she did. She really hadn't lost strength in her legs, which happens. She had lost the coordination. So she was able to get herself to the bed, pull herself up, come to sitting, call her husband, and be taken care of. But this is a pretty common thing. If you can think through what's going on right now, and that's what I hope you're going to learn in this 6-week series. Activities that we do as humans don't happen in one part or muscle. If you think about how we move, whether it's walking, driving, eating, even reaching up to get a glass out of the cabinet, even turning your head, muscles and bones move in relationship. It's not one muscle. We're going to do 6 lessons. We'll start with the foot and balance. The lessons are pretty concrete, focusing on specific movements, and you'll have the opportunity to discover the foot and its connections for yourself through these lessons. Our feet are our base, our connection to the earth. Think about a baby at about 4 months old. A baby's exploring the environment, getting to roll over, getting ready to roll over, heading toward crawling, and then after that, walking, which changes our lives forever. He plays with his feet, often putting his toes in his mouth. He kicks his feet in the air, bangs them on the floor, the mattress, and we're not going to be bringing our feet to our mouth today, but we will be doing our own exploration in safety and comfort. This is your safe space. So when I talk about feet, I realize that many of you can't feel your feet, maybe, or you don't want to because you have pain, tingling, paresthesias associated with your feet. So this investigation is going to help you assess if there's any part of the connection of your foot to the ground that's pleasant. If the movement is uncomfortable, you can imagine it. You can slow it down. You can do it in your mind. You can do less. You'll have the opportunity to feel each foot, the parts on the floor, and how each moves and participates with another. The goal of this is to learn to move and to function in satisfaction and pleasure. We're going to use what works for you. This is about learning. The idea is to help identify your habits. If your habits work for you, fabulous. Then you continue to move them. But it's about having options. So if you want to do something a different way, you can do your own personal discovery. And I also realize that some of you might be here to provide support for your loved ones. I'm glad that you're here. So we're all going to learn and grow together. Much has changed in the world of MS since I became involved as a child. Now there are medications that are effective in slowing the progress. We also know about diet and multiple sclerosis. All of this, plus learning to move in a non-stressful way with attention and awareness, can lessen the devastating effects of this and other progressive neurological diseases. Leave your traditional exercises and your notions about exercise aside for now. Be gentle, move slowly, have fun. We're going to get started. So please have a chair, not a chair that rolls. You can use a stool if you want. The back of the chair is for you to rest. If it's difficult for you to sit up in a chair, please, you can build up the back any way you'd like to make it more comfortable. But I don't want you sitting back with your back rounded. So sit so that your feet can touch the floor. So I'm going to give you a minute to get all that together. And remember, you're going to be comfortable and your feet do need to touch the floor. All right? So you get all that together and then we'll start. Okay? So I'm going to start with the flexibility of the foot. So like I said, your feet hold you up. Their connection to the ground, they influence your posture and your balance. It's best to do this barefoot or in socks. If you're really uncomfortable that way and you need to wear shoes, go ahead. But if you can have your feet on the floor, if you can get maybe a pad or a towel if the floor is cold. And also if you need to lie down, that's fine. Nadia is going to show us, she's going to do it lying down, and you'll be having your knees bent up so your feet are standing if you're lying down. But the most important thing is you're gonna want to be comfortable. And if you are lying down, it might be best if you can have a chair nearby at the end so that you can stand up if you want to. So have a seat in your chair. And just feel that your feet are on the floor, your whole foot on the floor. And notice where your feet are pointed. Do they point straight? And what I'm going to ask is just a way for you to assess what you're doing. It's not a right and wrong. It's just for you to know what you're doing right now so that if you change, you know, okay? So where are your toes pointing? Where are your knees pointing? Are your knees over your feet? And if you can, sit in a position so that your knees are over your feet. And if the chair is at the height that your knees can be at 90 degrees, that's good. If they can't, that's okay too. But if you can, have them at 90 degrees, and then your hips. And feel yourself on your buttocks. Feel what we call the sitting bones. Those are the little bones that you're sitting on. And notice on your sitting bones and on your buttocks, if there's more pressure on one buttock or the other. Do you have a tendency to sit more on the right or more on the left? And if you're not already, please come to the edge of your chair. So you're not leaning on the back, unless you need to lean on the back, and then that's okay. So feel where you are on your buttocks. And then you can feel the very lowest part of your spine, your tailbone. And follow up from that lowest part, from your tailbone, through your lower back. And often there's a little bit of an in curve in your lower back when you're upright. And that's okay. And it's okay if it's not. Follow it up, follow your spine upward and through your shoulder blades. And upward. And feel your neck. And there's usually an in curve with your neck. And then bring your attention to how your head sits on top of your neck. Notice your jaw. Notice if your teeth are touching. Notice your tongue, where you hold it. And notice your shoulders. Is your right ear closer to your right shoulder than your left ear is to your left shoulder? Just notice it, because we're going to notice it later. We might notice it periodically through the lesson. Notice your breath. When do you breathe in and when do you breathe out? Where do you breathe in and where do you breathe out? Do you breathe in your belly? Do you breathe in your chest? Can you feel your breath in your back, on your sides? Have your hands on your thighs. And if your eyes are closed, just open your eyes to notice where your gaze is. Where do you look? Where do you look right now? Where is your gaze? And during the lesson, you can have your eyes open or closed. This is just for right now. And then gently, gently turn your head and look to the right. And this is not how far you can go. Throughout this lesson, I'm going to ask people to move less than they can. If you're moving and you move as far as you can, that's 100%. And now turn to the left and notice how you do that. You can mark a spot easily. So move and then move half of that and notice how you move when you move. And then if you want to, you can even move half of that. That's 25%. So again, as I said, this is about how you move, not how much. We're going to come back to your feet. Feel your right foot on the floor. What part of your right foot is on the floor? You can have your eyes open or closed, whatever is easiest for you. Are you more toward your heel? Does your foot rest on the floor more towards your toes? Is it the same in the front or the back? Do you feel more pressure on the inside of your foot or the outside of your foot? Pay attention to that. The position of your foot on the floor. Now, think of your foot as a tripod. The tripod is the ball of your foot by your big toe, the ball of your foot by your little toe, and the heel. So it forms a triangle platform. That's our platform. I'm going to ask you to press each part of the tripod into the floor one at a time. So press the ball of your foot by your big toe into the floor. Press and release. I'm not going to hold. Press and release. And press and release. Press and release. Now, we are going to have rests in this, but if I don't do them soon enough, if you need to rest before, please feel free to rest. Press and release. And now let's Let's go to the ball of your foot by your little toe. Press into the floor. Notice, what do you do with your toes? When you're pressing that ball of your foot, what happens to your toes? Do they go into the floor? Do they clench the floor? Do they go up in the air? Press the outside, the ball of your foot by your little toe. And let that go. And now press the point of your triangle, your heel. What happens to the front of your foot when you press your heel? What happens to your lower leg? Anything? I'm not looking for something to happen. These are questions for you to ask yourself. This is part of your detective work. What happens? Does anything happen in your thigh? Can you feel this movement, echoes of this movement anywhere else in your body? What happens in the calf of your lower leg? We're going to go around each part. Press the ball of your foot by your big toe, the ball of your foot by your little toe, and your heel. We're on the right foot. Notice if there are any echoes of movement anywhere else. Notice what you do with your toes. Are they soft? Do they come up into the air? Keep going as I talk, slowly. Doing less, 25% of what you can do. You can try half of what you can do, and then half of that. It's a very quiet movement, very simple movement. You're pushing each corner of your tripod. What happens in your calf? What happens in your heel court, your Achilles? What happens with your breath? Let that go and rest. Let your foot rest. You can lean back when you rest. Okay, we're going to come back. Have a seat back in your chair. Feel your feet on the floor and notice if they're any different. Is one foot bigger than the other? Want more of one foot on the floor than the other? Please lift the front of your right foot. So your heel stays on the floor, your forefoot and toes come up in the air. Not as much as you can. This is not a stretching exercise. We're just moving a little bit, 25% of what you can do. Lift. And notice when you do this, what happens to your breath. Can you continue to breathe while you do this? I'm going to be asking about breathing throughout the lesson. So it's good to bring your attention to your breath, because if you're holding your breath, that might mean that you're giving effort. I think we don't realize how much we hold our breath. Notice what happens in your right knee as you lift up the front of your foot. Does anything happen to your right hip? And maybe it does and maybe it doesn't. Either is okay. These are questions. This is a language, the language of awareness. We don't learn this language. And let that go. Pay attention to your breath. And remember to rest at any time. And now, lift the back part of the tripod, your heel. So you come forward, you're lifting your heel, and you may have to change the way you place your feet in order to make this easy. There shouldn't be any discomfort anywhere. Lift your heel and return. When you lift your heel, the pressure goes to the forward part of your foot, right? Where does it go? Does it go more towards your toe, your big toe? Does it go more towards your little toe? Is it in the middle? Can you feel it on your toes? Maybe some of you can and some of you can't. Very slow. If you have a foot or an ankle issue, problem, injury, make this even easier, slower, softer. More is not better here. Stop and rest. And again, feel your feet on the floor when you're resting. During any of the rests, if you need to lie down, the rests aren't very long, but if you really feel like you need to lie down, please do. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Remember, this is your safe space. And I think that's one of the things that we learn in the Feldenkrais method, how to take care of ourselves. Please go around the tripod once more, just to feel how the tripod is now. Ball of your foot by your little big toe. Ball of your foot by your little toe. And your heel. Do that once or twice. Go one direction, go the other direction. Stop. And we're going to alternate. Lift the front part of your foot, lift the back part of your foot. Front of your foot, the back of your foot. Not as much as you can. So we're not rocking on your foot, so lift the front part, put it down, lift the back part, put it down, lift your forefoot, put it down, lift the heel part of the tripod, put it down. When you do this, is the movement smooth? Can you move in a relaxed fashion? Can you feel these echoes of movement anywhere else? What happens in your thigh? Do you feel like maybe your thigh gets longer one direction or the other, shorter the other direction? Maybe you feel that, maybe you don't. Can you feel a change in your buttocks? What happens in your pelvis? Do you feel anything in your head, in your neck? And you don't have to, like I said, I'll always ask this so that you can bring your attention there. Remember, it's about attention, where you put your attention and your awareness. Please stop and rest. When you rest, feel your breath. If you'd like to walk around, you can, but you don't have to. just if you feel you need to, or stand. However, it's best for you to rest. Take a little stress off your foot. You can lean back in your chair. But when you sit back down, just notice if there's a difference in one foot or the other. If you're lying on your back, you can straighten your legs. So come back, bend your knees, both feet on the floor. How is your right foot on the floor now? Is it any different? Now we're going to do the same thing on the left. On the left foot, we're going to look at your tripod, the ball of your foot by your big toe. It is a little easier if I can see your feet. Some of you, I can just see your lovely faces, which is lovely, but it's nice if I can see your feet. So feel the tripod, the ball of your foot by your big toe on your heel, on your left foot, ball of your foot by your little toe. We're just feeling it now. And your heel, that is your tripod on the left foot. How is that on the floor? You feel the whole thing on the floor? Is one part heavier than the other? Now we're going to press each part. So press the ball of your foot by your big toe into the floor. Let that go. Press. Let go. What happens when you press? What happens in your thigh? Can you feel anything in your thigh, the outer part of your thigh, inner part of your thigh, or the outer part of your thigh? And how about your calf? Where do you feel this? Do you feel this anywhere? And what about your toes? Do your toes stay on the floor? Push, relax, gently, gently, 25%. You push, then you push half of that, then you push half of that. Let that go. And feel free to stop before I say to stop. Now push the ball of your foot by your little toe. Push and relax. And push and relax. What happens in your thigh? What happens in your calf? You may feel this in your knee. What happens in your toes? And now let's do the heel. Push your heel gently into the floor. Let it go. Push into the floor. Let it go. Push into the floor. Let it go. A few more times. And feel, you're pushing to be able to feel where you feel movement, where you feel echoes of movement, how it feels to do this. What happens in your thigh? What happens in the back of your thigh? What happens in your knee? Do you feel any movement in your knee or in your calf? What do your toes do? They go up in the air? Do they clench? Let that go. and rest. Many of us are clenchers. A lot of people walk with their toes up in the air, and a lot of people clench their toes. Our toes are important for our balance. So knowing what you do with your toes is important. It's not super easy to change it, but if you're aware of it, you have a chance of changing it. It's a habit. One of those habits you can assess now. Please lift the forward part of your left foot, your forefoot. Lift the forward part. So that's forward parts of your tripod and your toes. Increased pressure goes on your heel. Lift it, put it down. Not as high as you can. As I said, it's not a stretching exercise. Just lift a little bit, 25%. When you go as far as you can, then what that tells your brain is what you can't do. Oop, I can't go anymore. So we're staying in that range that's easy. Relax the rest of your foot. What are you doing with your toes? Are your toes coming up in the air? Are they curling down? Notice what happens in your knees, your knee. Notice what happens in your thigh or in your buttocks. Let that go. And please lift your left heel. Lift it. Return. When you lift your left heel, where does the pressure go on your forefoot? Does it go onto your big toe? Does it go onto your little toe? Is it in the middle? Do you feel any movement anywhere else? What happens in your knee? What happens in your calf? What happens in your thigh? Do you feel any changes, any lightness in your buttocks? That sitting bone that we sit on. Let go of that. We'll just pause. It's not a complete rest. Feel your foot on the floor. And alternate now. So lift the front part of your foot, lift the back part of your foot, lift the front, lift the back, front forefoot and toes. The back is your heel. Lift, put it down and lift your toes. Put it, or your forefoot. Put it down, lift your heel. Bring your forefoot up, put it down, lift your heel, put it down. And what do you feel anywhere else? Where do you feel the echoes of this movement? Stop and rest. When you rest, feel your breath. What's the size of each foot? How does your left foot rest on the ground now? Does it feel any bigger? Is that arch closer to the floor? Where is your breath? And if your eyes are closed, open them for a minute and just see where your gaze is. And turn your head to the right and turn your head to the left. And come back. And alternate each foot. So that is lift the forward part of your right foot and lift the backward part of your left foot. So you're doing toe, heel, forefoot, heel, and you're doing it the opposite on each foot. So the right foot, your toes come up while your left foot, the heel is coming up, then put them both down, then do the toes and the heel opposite. Forefoot on one foot, the heel on the other foot. Do it slowly, do it easily. Don't try to rush it. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. You're alternating. Forefoot on one, back on the other. What happens in your buttocks? What happens in your calf? What about your knees? Your hands are on your thighs, right? So can you feel that your hands are moving? Lying down, you might have a different experience. You might feel that shift of weight on your buttocks. We feel it sitting also. Feel one thigh getting longer, one thigh getting shorter. And rest. And feel both feet on the floor. Notice their size. How is your arch now? Is it higher off the floor, or is your whole foot more on the floor? Feel your breath. Take your time. Remember, do this at your own pace. At any time, you can do it in your mind. You can imagine it. Make sure you're breathing. Don't work as hard as you can. Please, make it easy. Come back up with your feet on the floor, your knees at 90 degrees or as close as possible, your knees over your feet as much as possible. Hands on your thighs, sitting away from the back of the chair. And on the right, again, slowly lift the inside of your foot. So that's going to be the ball of your foot by your big toe and the side of your heel. Lift it and put it back. And notice what happens. What happens with your knee? What happens with your thigh? What happens with your hip? Let that go. And lift the outside of your foot. How is this? Do it easy. If something is difficult, Do it easier. Be more gentle. Do it gentler. Don't force it. Where else can you feel this movement? When you lift the outside, is your knee going one way or the other? What happens in your hip? And alternate. Lift the inside of your right foot and lift the outside. Where does this movement happen? Does it happen in your ankles? Does it happen in your knee? Can you feel yourself rolling over your heel? But again, it's lift the inside, bring your foot down, lift the outside, bring your foot down, lift the inside, flat, lift the outside, and stop. Feel your foot on the floor now. Feel your breath. Take a rest. You rest. Pay attention to your breath. Okay, sit back down. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the tripod of your right foot. Do your left foot. Lift the inside edge of your left foot. That's the ball of your foot by your big toe on the left and your heel. What happens to your toes? Do they come along for the ride? Just fine. Anything is fine. Make it easy. Make it light. Make it easy. Inside edge. What happens to your knee? What happens in your thigh? What happens in your hip? Can you feel this in your ribs at all? Above your pelvis? Maybe you even feel something into your neck? Maybe? Maybe not. Let that go. Lift the outside edge of your left foot. Outside edge of your left foot. Ball of your foot by your little toe. Side of your heel. Take your time. Make it easy. And remember to rest if you need to rest. This can be very calming to your nervous system. So take care of yourself. And do this with your eyes open or closed. As long as you keep breathing. And stop and rest. Where do you feel your foot on the floor now? How is your foot on the floor now? Is your left foot bigger than it was? How are you sitting on your chair or lying on the floor? How are you breathing? Where is your head? Where are your shoulders? Let's do both together. So the outside edge of your right foot and the inside edge of your left foot. Lift them a little bit, put them down, and lift the inside edge of your right foot and the outside edge of your left foot. What happens in your thighs? What happens in your calf? What happens in your knee? What happens on your buttock? You feel each foot. What does it feel like? Make it easy, make it slow, do it slowly. Stop and rest. Feel your feet on the floor again. Feel how each foot rests on the floor. And let's do the tripod on the right foot again. So push the ball of your foot on your big toe. The ball, we're not going to do it over, we're going to go around. Ball of the foot, your foot on your big toe. Ball of your foot on your little toe. And your heel. How is that now? Is that clearer than it was? Let's do it on the left. Ball of your foot on your big toe. Ball of your foot on your little toe. And your heel. Again, feel your feet on the floor and take a rest. Take a nice rest. Feel your breath, feel your feet on the floor. If you're lying on the floor, you can stretch out your legs. Lean back. If you're sitting and you want to lie down, that's fine. It's going to be a little longer this time. Not a lot, but time enough to rest. Please come back up to sitting. Hope that was long enough. During these rests, that's when our brain sort of says, what's going on here? What are you doing? And it's a quiet time to reflect on what's going on. Of course, we reflect through the whole lesson, but that's the perfect time to reflect. Bring your attention to your breathing. So come back to sitting. going to do the tripod on both at the same time. So the ball of your, so it's at the same time, the ball of your foot of your big toe and the ball of your foot on your big toe on the right, the ball of your foot on your little toe on the left, and then go across to the ball of the foot on your big toe on the left and the ball of your foot by your little toe on the right and your heel. So you're going around that triangle slowly, and it might look more like a circle, or it might look more like a foot. Sometimes it's a little harder to do something slowly than it is to do it quickly, but it's important to do it slowly so you can really pay attention. We don't want to race through it. Do less than you can. What happens in your knees? Do you feel circles anywhere else in yourself? As you make those, you go around your foot. What's happening in your thighs? What's happening in your knees? Do you feel movement? It's best if your knees are at a 90-degree angle over your foot. If they're stretched out, you're not going to feel as much. And there's probably more effort if you don't have your knees at as close to 90 degrees as possible. And you're not just racing around a circle. So you want to do the ball of your foot on each side, come back, the ball of your foot on the other side, come back, and then your heel. Continue to do this circle and clench your teeth. Bring your teeth together. Do it for a few minutes with your teeth together and notice if that changes anything. Does it change your breath? And let go of your teeth and come back and notice how it is now. And notice if your eyes are moving as you do this. And stop and let's go the other direction, the other circle. Counterclockwise, that's what it's called. What happens to your knees? Are you breathing? Everybody hold your breath and do this. Just for a minute, or not even a minute, just a little bit. Notice how holding your breath changes the movement. Just do what you can do. Notice when you do this, if both hips feel the same. Does one hip go smoothly around the circle and the other hip feel a little glitchy? What's happening on your buttocks? And rest. Feel each foot on the floor. Feel the tripod. And notice if any parts of you are crying out in discomfort. And if that's the case, then stop. This is the no pain approach. Don't do any more than you can comfortably do. Take care of yourself. You need to lean against the back of the chair at any time, please do. Let's come back and have some fun with this. Come away from the back of the chair, put your feet on the floor with your knees over your feet, about shoulder width apart, your hands on your thighs. And let's go around in that circle again. All right. Ball of your foot by your, we're going clockwise. Ball of your foot by your big toe, ball of your foot by your little toe. Go across to your ball of your foot by your big toe on the left, ball of your foot on your little toe on the right. And then your heel. Go around that circle nice and slow. And feel what happens in your thighs. And now let's speed it up. Make a nice, and that's not too fast. Just make it a little faster. It can be smaller and faster. Doesn't have to be bigger, but you be the judge of that. When you do this, go one direction. Is it the same for both legs? What happens in your pelvis? What happens in your sitting bones? What happens in your belly? Go the other direction. You're going around your feet. Make it faster. Faster. Maybe make it slower and faster. How about that? I mean, smaller, not slower and faster. Smaller and faster. Do you feel your shoulders moving? Breathe, please. That's nice. Very nice. Stop and rest. Open your eyes if they're not, and just see where your gaze is. Where do you look now? Is it any different? And it may or may not be. And turn to the right. And as you turn, look. Where is your gaze as you turn? What do you see? What do you see? And if you're lying on the floor, and if you can, please roll to the side and come up to sitting. And for those of you sitting, I do have a question before you come up. What is the sitting level of on your chair now? Is it any easier for you to sit on your chair now than it was before? Is it more restful on your chair now? So please come up, standing. Stand on your feet before you walk. Just stand for a minute. And feel yourself on your tripod. And if you're not standing, in sitting, put your feet on the floor and feel your tripod. Even if you don't stand in life, having your feet be able to touch the ground. Now, if you're in a wheelchair, it might be the pedals on your wheelchair, and that's okay. But having our feet on the ground is so important. Most of the function we do is with our feet on the ground. And if you're short, like moi, put some books under, or a box under, or a footrest. So please walk around if you can, if it's easy for you, and just notice you're walking, and notice your gaze. As you walk, look around. Part of this work is learning to move and be gentle with ourselves at the same time. Not using effort is so important. Be gentle with yourself as you move and pay attention. Be aware of how you put each foot on the ground. If when you're walking, all of a sudden you can't, or it hurts in one place, you stop. Feel your tripod. Move around your tripod. This is a good strategy. And learning to move and be gentle at the same time is so important. So come on back. And I really want to thank you for coming to this class today. So you can get an idea of how we're going to use a part, and then we're going to move through our body and show how the relationships, that's what's so important, the relationships of one part to the other. It's not just about one part. And consider signing up for this series. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The series includes all the lessons, and then each lesson is going to come with a little short lesson. So if you want to experience the lesson again, but you really don't want to lie down for an hour, you can't, you'll get a little short lesson, very short, but it'll just remind your brain of what we've done. There'll also be 2 Q&As, 2 times where I'm going to be there and you can ask me questions. I hope it'll be a Q&A. And also, I can't encourage you enough to send in your questions, because it's so important that I'm speaking to you and that I answer your questions, and I will answer your questions. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.